all the conversation this week has been surrounding the future of Sam Darnold and the future of the quarterback position on the Minnesota Vikings. I'm on record saying yesterday that there is no chance the Vikings bring back Sam Darnold for this reason and this reason only. They let Kirk Cousins walk to have salary cap flexibility, and they drafted J.J. McCarthy to create that salary cap flexibility. The idea of having a rookie quarterback on a rookie-scaled contract and being able to sign those players around him is the Minnesota Vikings plan. And now that you're seeing more conversation happen about it, you can start to get a feel and a pulse of what not only opinionated people are saying, like myself, and I'm just coming with objective opinions, but the more you see from insiders that cover the Minnesota Vikings, the people that are around the organization, you hear what the organization is saying. Because I try to limit the amount of opinions people say, because that's not an accurate representation of what is true. I've reacted to a few Colin Cowherd, Stephen A. Smith things because they're a big name. And if you have a big name, to be honest, you put that on the podcast and it's going to get a ton of listens. But now that we have a full pulse, a full idea of what insiders on the Minnesota Vikings are saying, we can now react and judge with some idea of what is going to happen. So Ben Gessling, he's an insider on the Star Tribune. He was on K-Fan recently, and he was on Paul Allen's show, 9 to noon. And this is what he had to say about the situation.
Yep. I think the reason for this not being that difficult, it's tricky because if Darnold goes and plays at an MVP level and wins a Super Bowl, I think that changes things a little bit. But it is tough with the financial situation because they are set up in a way that is reflecting that they expect to have a quarterback playing at a fairly cheap salary. When you pay Justin Jefferson like a quarterback, when you have the money that they do, they signed Darisaw, they've signed Hawkinson, obviously. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of these long-term contracts, and I think there are probably going to be more coming. Byron Murphy, I wrote about this today, I think is a pretty big priority to bring back, and that will not be cheap either.
Yeah.
But
Team's got 35, 36 free agents in March.
Yeah.
Jeez. Ton of guys.
It's a lot. I mean, think about the number of one. Yeah.
Mostly?
Think about all the guys on one-year deals. I mean, Gilmore, Murphy's a free agent. That's void year. Aaron Jones, Darnold, obviously. You can keep going down the line. Some of the role players, Jihad Ward, Grugier Hill, all these guys are free agents. So you have to make some decisions on some of those guys. You have to fill out the roster with not a ton of draft picks.
Because you don't have draft picks to do some of that replenishing.
Yep. Yeah. So there's a lot of that stuff. And I think the way this sets up, it just looks like they're constructing themselves around the idea that they're not going to have a big bill at quarterback for a while. There's maybe a way to do it, but I think first-round picks at quarterback typically play, and I think they were excited enough about McCarthy that it's a weird situation. It's a little bit like 2018 where you go on a run with a guy that you're not expecting to be the long-term solution. Sorry, 2017 going into 2018, and then what do you do? But I think the fact that McCarthy comes with the cheap bill and the fact that they're excited enough about him, I think it's going to be him. I think that's part of the reason Daniel Jones is here.
It sounds like you're trying to talk yourself into this.
I'm trying to talk listeners into saying this is not as crazy as it may seem given the way that Darnold is playing. I just think the way they're set up.
But that's
true. All those things are fact, and those are the things that, people with understandable and knowledgeable brains understand. You look at what the Minnesota Vikings want, what they created, what they got out of when they became a part of the organization. I'm referring to Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. What did he get out of when he inherited the organization? What did he start with? He started with salary cap crap. Not much ability to create the roster that he wanted. So the last thing he is going to do is create a situation that's exactly like that. So there's no chance Sam Darnold is coming back. And you know what was interesting? Wes Phillips, the Minnesota Vikings offensive coordinator, who doesn't call plays but is the offensive coordinator, helps probably create the game plan and talk to players. Who knows what those guys do? Kevin O'Connell had that role with the Los Angeles Rams before he became the head coach on the Minnesota Vikings. I'd be curious to see what their role is when they're not calling plays. But Wes Phillips shared some interesting information in his recent press conference.
That he's like not thinking at all about how this season could affect his future and affect, his long-term goals, whatever they might be.
Well, you'd have to ask Sam that, but, in my mind, I would hope he would kind of say, hey, the body of work that I've put in so far is going to take care of the future. So really all I need to worry about is right now. I think we all know that, Sam is going to be a sought after type of guy from wherever that may be. So, whatever his future ends up being is I know all of us in this building are going to be happy for him no matter where that ends up being. So I don't think he has to worry about that anymore. I think the worry might have been, okay, this is my opportunity to play. All right. He's passed all that. He's proven the doubters, and he's proven that he can play in this league.
That is the most honest you'll ever hear an employee on the Minnesota Vikings organization, because you think about what he just said. He's like, he's going to find somewhere else. He's going to be coveted. We're happy to have him, blah, 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 yada, yada. Wes Phillips just gave a very honest press conference, something that you never see from the O'Connells or the Quezzies of the world. So he just said what everybody knows and what everybody's thinking, including Sam Darnold and his agent. He's going to be a coveted player, and he's proven that he should be a coveted player this season. So he's going to be a coveted player this offseason. Ben Lieber, the sideline reporter on the Vikings Entertainment Network for games, he's got a feel in the locker room. And he was on Dan Barrero's show the other day. He had this to say.
Well, how about franchising? I was told you're even against the concept of franchising. Is that true?
Yeah, I'm against that in this situation. Look, man, I think the handshake agreement was done, last offseason. He knew what the Vikings' intentions were. He knew the whole time. They're like, look, I'm a potential bridge quarterback. And potential meaning that he didn't know if he was going to beat out McCarthy or whoever they drafted. He knew he was just a one-stop guy that was hopefully going to get better under the tutelage of KOC and the system and Wes Phillips and all this other stuff. To go out there and he goes out and proves it in a one-year deal, and you want to handcuff him now and use him as a financial pawn?
He's a big boy. He knows how the game's played.
I just don't think it feels dirty to me, and I don't feel like the Vikings organization would do him dirty like that. Like, thank him for everything he's done. Let the little birdie go out there and make a bunch of money because he's earned it.
So Sam Darnold understands the role he was playing on the Minnesota Vikings this year. He was that one stop guy for J.J. McCarthy. And Ben Lieber knows it. He sees it, and he calls it like it is. And the Minnesota Vikings are probably not going to franchise tag him, because why would we franchise tag him and then just trade him to another organization who's got him for a 1 year? I just don't think that's a realistic option either. So Sam Darnold knows his role. J.J. McCarthy understands the situation. Ben Lieber sees it. Sam Darnold is not coming back next year. And this is why Daniel Jones signed with the Minnesota Vikings, because he saw the success from Sam Darnold in a season and is thinking, you know what? Maybe I can do that in 6 or 7 or 8 games. Be the backup on the Minnesota Vikings, hit the free agent market, and tell teams that I learned so much under Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings organization, and I'm so much further than my progress was with the New York Giants. So it's all a part of the plan, and there's really nothing shocking about what anybody is saying. It's just that we need to come to grips with the realistic possibility, really the only possibility, that Sam Darnold will not be the Minnesota Vikings quarterback next year because he wants the big splash, and the Minnesota Vikings want to keep their salary cap flexibility that they worked so hard to get. That's the key. It would be one thing if they inherited a rookie quarterback, it didn't work, and they want to try this route. But now the realistic scenario is that they inherited salary cap crap and are trying to create their salary cap flexibility so that they can do what they want to do in free agency and bring in guys and do these things, especially because they traded multiple mid-round picks in the future. They still have their first-round pick next year, but they traded away multiple mid-round picks. And when you do that, you got to create roster reconstruction somehow, or construction, and you do that by drafting players. But you can't draft players. You got to sign them in free agency because they traded their mid-round picks. So it's all part of the plan, and there's really nothing surprising or shocking about any of it. Thank you for going on this journey with me. Hit that subscribe button right there, and thank you for making this podcast a part of your day.